So we are discussing about co-directional coupling, right? And for this, we take example of two different modes coming out of two different waveguides. So this is your waveguide A, and another waveguide can be considered something like this, and we call this as a waveguide A and waveguide B, and maybe their separation, if you just see lateral separation, if this you consider as a y, this is x, or maybe you can consider x, whatever you consider, that's fine. And then you have x, and if waveguides are parallel to the z axis, and individually if we solve the field distribution, we can say that field distribution can be xy, and you can consider field distribution of B waveguide is xy, and then you have your beta A, and you can have your beta B propagation constant, and you can consider this thing. Yeah, fine. So this is the two thing, and if it is waveguide B is a perturbation to waveguide A, if waveguide B is considered as a perturbation of waveguide A and vice versa, then we can say that this waveguide A1 will have a z-dependent amplitude variation, and this I consider just A2 z-dependent variations. Waveguide 1 and waveguide A stands for 1 and waveguide B stands for 2. So that is what the situation. And then main challenge is that we have to solve the coupled equation dO1 dz2, and since it is co-propagating waveguide, no, sorry, you have to consider simple thing. Okay, so we have dA1 z by dz equal to minus j kappa A2z e to the power j delta beta z, and dA2z dz equal to minus j kappa star A1z e to the power j delta beta z minus. In this particular case, we have considered this delta beta equal to, just since no periodic perturbation is there, we simply just consider delta beta equal to beta A minus beta B, and that an additional m 2 pi by lambda term we just remove because we don't have any periodic perturbation. So if both the waveguides are identical, then we can consider beta A should be equal to beta B, co-propagating waveguide, right? And then delta beta must be equal to 0. Okay, so in that case delta beta can be removed, but if for a general solution we can keep it as it is. If there is a little bit variation because of the fabrication or intentional design of dimension of waveguide A and B, then we can just keep it as it is. Now next thing is that just to calculate kappa value. So kappa value normally we defined as omega by 4, and this is actually your, we consider say EA star xy, and any perturbation is there, so that has to be considered, and then EB xy dx dy. So now you see, normally if you have a waveguide, two waveguides.
Hello, sir.
Yes. Tell me. Can you hear me? Yeah. Jaswant or Rishabh, you are asking some question? Am I audible, no?
Yes, sir, you're audible. Rishabh was
Ah,
asking question.
Rishabh, he has some problem, probably connecting problem. Anyway, we continue, right? So this is your waveguide, and this is another waveguide you just consider, right? Just how to solve kappa I am just showing here. Suppose you have a waveguide. I'm just a little bit exaggerating here. Mode profiles are like that, little bit bigger size, and here mode profiles are like this. That means I'm just showing the in this case, when I'm just plotting mode profile along the y direction, this is your electric field. Okay, so if I define the wave field distribution for waveguide A, EAXY, suppose I define that is actually some FXY, cross-sectional variation. So what would be the, if they are almost identical waveguide, then EBXY, if they are identical, completely identical, and if their separation is, for example, say center to center separation is suppose G, then EBXY can be written as F X Y minus G, right? If they are identical waveguides, we can just define that their profile is similar, but it is laterally shifted. We can define like that. So whenever I am trying to calculate this overlap integral, I should see what is their coordinate position of these waveguides. Depending on their separation, that should be included in the profile. That is one thing. And this integral will exist only when this value of these three should be non-zero. Field due to waveguide A, field due to waveguide B, and the perturbation must exist. So in that case, if I see that, if I just try to calculate kappa, that means in this region, in this waveguide region, right, it has EA not equal to 0 because there some field strength is there. That is actually EA not equal to 0. EB also not equal to 0 because it's its own field. And delta epsilon, that is the entire waveguide, is the delta epsilon for the first waveguide. So for first waveguide, when I'm solving EXY, that time the second waveguide was not present. Maybe it is AR cladding. AR was there originally. But now for waveguide 1, the second waveguide is a perturbation. That means in this region, delta epsilon, that means what is the differential change in refractive index. Normally, this is silicon. Silicon dielectric constant is about more than 11 or 12, or refractive index equal to 3.5 square. So that in this region, I have to consider here. So I have only non-zero value, all the three, only in this region. So if I integrate this region, then I will be able to get a kappa value. Is that clear? So to get a kappa value, you need to calculate field profile for waveguide 1, field profile for waveguide 2, and then you need to see which region this additional dielectric constant, additional waveguide presence. Originally it should be nothing, but now nothing means dielectric constant 1. Now dielectric constant silicon present, so silicon dielectric constant, if it is some 11.5 or something like that, then delta epsilon will be about 10.5 or so. So you can consider in this region, whatever coordinate you are considering for the xy coordinate, you can consider delta epsilon is non-zero. Okay, so in this way, numerically you will be able to calculate. So though we are developing coupled wave equation analytically, but ultimately, depending on the waveguide cross section, etc., the field distribution you have to calculate using full vectorial method, and delta epsilon you need to manually you have to see where is the delta epsilon value, and numerically you have to compute the kappa value. So once you have the knowledge of kappa, okay, So this is, I can calculate kappa because of waveguide A. Because of the presence of waveguide B, I can define kappa AB. Then I can say that kappa BA also will be something like this, omega by 4. This will be like EB star XY, delta epsilon XY, and EA XY dx dy. Normally, they are complex conjugate. Typically, they are complex conjugate. So they are, if they are real, I think they are identical. You don't need to worry about that. If they are complex, because delta epsilon can be complex also, and some complex part you can have here also. So that is the reason you can always consider the kappa value. They can be complex conjugate. So KAB should be equal to complex conjugate of KBA. So something like that, we can just consider K kappa or something like that. So once you have that value, this is, suppose you know. And of course, another one thing you should keep in mind, whenever you are using this value, you are computing for numerical or any other software, you should keep always in mind that the normalization constant. So you should consider to, I think beta by, sorry, it should be beta by 2. So it should be something like this, beta over 2 omega mu, beta over 2 omega mu, and integration. Suppose if it is a waveguide A, you can write xy square dx dy, and if you are calculating this from whatever, from a certain software, and you don't know whether that is normalized or not, in that case you can just consider a normalization constant ak. This should be beta k. If it is kth mode or waveguide A, I have written earlier k, just let us put like a beta k. This should be equal to 1 watt. So that means if you are directly using the value getting from numerical or full vectorial solutions, you should normalize this way. Then you try to find out what is the value of AK. You just consider this is equal to 1 watt and beta k is known. You are getting from the numerical solution, omega per frequency you know, mu you know, and then this value you have. So you integrate, and integrate should be sufficiently large. Should be in principle minus infinity to plus infinity, but for integration purpose you don't need. If you have a waveguide something like this, and if it is something few 100 nanometer here, so if it is your origin, you can just integrate from some 1 micron 2 micron plus to 1 micron 2 micron minus, because your field will not exist outside. So your integration need not be minus infinity to plus infinity. You can get sufficiently large cross section to integrate, and you just normalize and you find AK. And once you find AK, the calculated, you can consider your, if it is your calculated value of waveguide is this one, okay, then you multiply AK, whatever value you compute from this equation, that can be used here or here as a normalized value. AK should be multiplied and then use that one, and then I calculate kappa AB. I hope it is clear how to calculate kappa. If you have a software to solve field distribution, and then in this particular case, if I ask you to calculate kappa, you should be able to calculate. Okay, so once you know the kappa value and epsilon value, then we can come back to that equation again. d1z by dz minus j, kappa known, right? Kappa, and e to z and e to the power j delta beta z. Also we assume that this this thing is delta beta is known to you, and then one equation and another equation. Let us consider this is equation number 1, and this is a to z dz equal to minus j kappa star a1z e to the power minus j delta beta z. So I have assumed that delta beta known, kappa known, you have calculated kappa known. So delta beta known, kappa known. Now I want to solve, because kappa known we consider that EAXY and EBXY also known, calculated. That's why kappa known. You could calculate. Now what I need to know? I need to solve A1Z and A2Z. If I can solve A1Z and A2Z, then I will be able to say that if your two waveguides are there, say like this, and it is going like this, and another waveguide you can consider something like this and going like that, then if they are interacting and kappa is non-zero, then you can say that what is the value of at any point of Z, what is the value of field strength in waveguide A equal to say EAXY and multiplied by say A1Z. And here at any point you will be able to see that what is the field strength. We can say that E2 for example, E2 will be EB XY and A2. I could write AA and AB because A sounding different, that's why I put A2Z. So that means I can say that once I can solve A1Z, I will be able to see what is the field distribution at a particular Z position. This is your Z direction, right? So now my challenge is that to solve this equation 1, 2, they are coupled because you see A1 is here, A2 is here, they are coupled. And here also you are getting A2, two equation, two unknowns. So we will be able to solve. How to solve? Can you suggest these two equation? I want to find out the solution of this one. Yeah.
Take a derivative with respect to Z.
You just take a derivative of first one with respect to Z, and then you will be getting, you just substitute that, then you will be able to eliminate. Okay. So if you do that, just make a first derivative here. If I just remove this one, it would be better. Clean up this thing. Okay, so let us try this one. I just make derivative dA2A1 Z by dZ2, and right hand side let us take minus J kappa, and I can write dA2 dZ, and then I can write plus J delta beta A2 and e to the power J delta beta Z. That is the right hand side, right? And if you see little bit modify here, minus J kappa, I can write dA2 Z, right, by dZ times e to the power J delta beta Z, and plus J delta beta A2 e to the power J delta beta Z. I just multiply inside. Now you see from equation 2, if I take e to the power J delta beta Z to the left hand side, I get this value. So I can write this one minus J kappa, that will be minus J kappa star A1Z. So that is the first term, and second term I have to write A2Z multiplied by e to the power J delta beta Z, right? So this one is nothing but 1 over minus J, that means J over K. So we can write J is there already, delta beta is there, and then we have J over kappa, and that will be actually your dA1 Z by dZ. So that is the right hand side. So if you just simplify a bit more, so we have d2A1 Z dZ2 equal to right hand side, what we have, yeah, right hand side. So if I take minus minus plus JJ plus, that means JJ minus again, so minus kappa square A1Z. So right hand side we can put minus kappa square A1 right, A1z. So that is what we get here. So minus k square A1z, and then this one equal to jj minus 1 minus minus plus. So plus k kappa kappa can, no, here one j is also there. So j 1j j minus 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 plus. So 1j will be there, kappa kappa cancel. So you have j delta beta plus j delta beta and so on. So plus j delta beta dA1 z by dz. So that is your equation 3. So you just little bit modify here, d2A1z and dz2. So you can write minus j delta beta dA1z dz plus kappa square A1z equal to 0. So this is your equation 4. So this equation you can easily solve. Delta beta is constant. This things is constant. This second order derivative differential equation easy to solve. I'm not going into the exact process of solution because you have done this thing from the school level. So I will be just writing the final equation. Okay. So final equation is if I just see this one, A1z, I think better I write in the second page, that would be better. So A1z solutions will be something like this. So one thing you should keep in mind that when you solve differential equation, many constants will be there. So it is a second order differential equation. So two constant will be there. If you just integrate one after another, then you should be able to solve that. But those constant can be solved by considering boundary conditions. And what is that boundary condition? I can consider A1 z equal to 0 can be considered as A1. I think I can consider A1 0, something like this. And A2, that means at the beginning when the perturbation starts, z equal to 0, I can write something A2 0. These are also known. So what is the value at the beginning when perturbation starts? That value amplitude, it's a volt per meter, whatever the values. A1 0 and A2 0 are known. So by solving, so not only you are solving this thing, differential equation, after solving the constants can be again solved, evaluated by assuming this boundary condition, known boundary condition. So using that, whatever you get, I'm just writing e to the power j delta beta. You all try to solve and confirm me later that this is, if there is any mistakes or not. Okay. So what we can write, this is actually, we'll be writing something like this: cosine s z. I'll come to know, I will explain what is s now. Minus j delta beta by 2 and curly bracket close. No, not curly bracket close here. So delta beta by 2 sine sz by s, then curly bracket close, and then you have this one, right? And then minus j kappa, kappa known, you calculate sine sz by s, okay, A2 0. Okay, this is your A1z. So what is the new thing we have here? Up during your solution, step by step, when you come through, then you have used earlier, assume that is actually consider as kappa square plus delta beta by 2 square. That is your s square. So that means s is square root of this one. So this is the assumption assumed. After assuming this and assuming this boundary condition, your solutions will be like this. there's a few steps, algebraic steps. I'm just skipping here. You can try to see. And you should do that thing, because most of the textbook, they are just writing direct equations, expecting that you know what are the steps, how to solve this. And it's a straightforward, you can solve directly by yourself. I have done that actually. So A to Z, similarly, if you calculate, once you get A1Z, you will be able to solve A to Z also. And A to Z can be written as, so same thing, just minus delta beta by 2, because they are almost complementary. I will explain that, right? And then here you have minus J kappa star sine SZ by S, and A10 plus curly bracket on cosine SZ plus J delta beta by 2 sine SZ S curly bracket of A2 0 and this one. So let us consider this is equation number 6, and this is equation number 7, and this is equation number 5. You consider, okay, equation 3 4 earlier was there, we have assumed 5, and 6 7 you are getting U1Z A2Z. Okay, so this you are you have solved, and you now know that if your initial condition, initial mode amplitude, field strength, if it is defined by A10 and A20, then as it propagates, then what you see, you are supposed to get some kind of coupling. Okay, now next thing is that step by step we'll be trying to see whether this equation solutions are actually satisfying all the conditions required for fundamental laws of physics. For example, energy conservation, momentum conservation, all those type of things are happening or not. We should just clarify that thing. Okay, so before going into that, I'll just try to give you some aspect. Let us assume that all those are satisfied, and let us proceed, and at the end I will be just showing how they are actually fulfilling energy conservation. That means energy conservation means, suppose you have two modes and coupling happening between these two modes only. Okay, all other modes are maybe they are radiating mode, leaking modes, everything is there, but coupling will not take place, either kappa equal to 0 or delta beta not equal to 0. So I have already mentioned earlier that you need two conditions, that kappa should not be equal to 0, that is one condition to be fulfilled, and second condition should be delta beta should be tends to 0 or 0. These two conditions if fulfills, then only you can say that power exchange can take place between two modes. Okay, so there can be thousands of modes, there can be hundreds of modes, but only between those modes this condition is fulfilled, power exchange can take place through these equations. Okay, now let us try to see. I just consider, first thing is that let us consider delta beta perfectly equal to 0. Equal to 0 I consider, put here, right? Just special case, I'm just considering a special case, just give you an idea that this is actually really usable equation. Delta beta 0, and one more thing I'm considering, that what does it mean when I put A2 0 equal to 0 and A1 0 equal to, it is non-zero. What does it mean?
Initially, we have no excited state at second waveguide.
Second waveguide, nothing is there. In second waveguide, we don't have mode are there, but we are not launching any power to that mode. Mode solution mathematically is there, but first waveguide we have something, some energy is there. Okay, I have launched. So these equations 6 and 7, how it will be modified? if I just put delta beta equal to 0, assuming that this beta A equal to beta B, that means delta beta equal to 0, for example, identical, same waveguides, only they are separated somehow, and kappa exists. So equation 6 becomes what it will become. Equation 6, this one will become 1. First exponential term will become 1. Cos sz, what you will be writing? Instead of cos sz, what you should be writing?
Mod of kappa.
Mod of kappa z. So I will be writing cosine mod of kappa z. That is the first term. And second term, 0. So this will be actually A10, right? I'm just writing A1z. And then second term here, because A20 equal to 0, if you just put, second term won't be there, right? So A1z will be this one. And what about A2z? Let me know if it is difficult to understand. A2z, what I should be writing? This one again will be 1. And A20, this one will be 0, right? A20 multiplied, because A20 I am just imposing, A20 is nothing is there. So first term, what should be there? What would be the value? Minus
j kappa.
J kappa star by mod kappa, right? And sine again kappa mod kappa z. A10. Is that clear? So this is the case when this is the solutions I'm getting. That means if kappa equal to non-zero, delta beta equal to 0, A1z will vary. It will not be A1z. A10 originally it was there, but as it propagates, the power actually will vary as a cosine function. If kappa equal to 0, then this value is 1. That means nothing is changed as a function of z. A1z will remain constant. But as long as kappa equal to non-zero, so that power in waveguide 1, it will be varying like a cosine function. Initially it was maximum, and slowly it will be going down to 0. That means power will be completely 0. When some point kappa z equal to pi by 2. If kappa z equal to pi by 2, that means this value will become 0. That means in waveguide 1, your power is completely vanished. At the same time, what you will get? This kappa z pi by 2, that means complete power will transfer to mode 1, waveguide 2. A10, and this will be value 1, right? So that actually makes sense that whenever two waveguides are interacting and phase matched and they are somehow coupled, then if you are launching power in one of the waveguides, after traveling a certain distance, you may find that in the first waveguide nothing is there at all, everything is drained to the second waveguide. And if you continue further, then it will be reverse process. Power will be again coming back to the waveguide 1. So this is how this situation will be there. So let us consider this is equation 8 and equation 9. Right? Now we consider the other situation. I consider delta beta 0, that maintain that thing. And I consider waveguide 2 was 0. Waveguide 1 was non-zero. Now if I just consider reverse situation, what would be the situation? For example, I have two waveguides, right? I have two waveguides. Here is one waveguide. Top view I am showing. And another waveguide is here. Top view. So initially, I just launch A10. Then what I got? After a certain length, say z equal to 0, and this is z equal to z, right? Then here what are you supposed to get? I supposed to get cosine kappa value I know, I calculated, and A10. That will be the value, right? And what will be the value here? Here minus j kappa star kappa sine. Remember that If kappa is real, that means this will be 1. Kappa star by kappa, then that will be 1. Otherwise, you just have some kind of phase. That may, if it is complex, some phase will be there. Already you see minus j phase. That means you get some value here. Suppose this is real, you get some value here, and here you get value here. Something you are launching here, and whatever you are getting in the second waveguide, that is having a phase shift of how much? Anyone? After traveling a certain distance z, I see in second waveguide this much, this fraction. This is your original input. Here A2
180 degree.
180. How?
Minus j is there.
Minus j means 180.
No side.
How much? J means how much? How much phase?
Pi by 2.
That's a pi by 2. It's a minus pi by 2 phase shift, right?
Minus pi by 2.
So that means when two waveguides are coupling, and whatever going to the second waveguide, if you at any point, if you see their phase relationship, what is the phase relationship? They are actually phase difference of pi by 2, right? Whatever value is here and whatever value is here, if you try to see what is their phase difference, that will be pi by 2. Because whatever going throughput, it is just simply real part. A10 real means real. And whatever leaking to the tunnel to the second waveguide, that is undergoing some pi by 2 phase shift. That you should keep in mind. Now reverse situation, if you do, what would be the case? If you have a situation like this, you have waveguide 1, where you are not launching A10 equal to 0. First waveguide is 0. And then second waveguide, you have a situation where you are launching A2 0, which is not equal to 0. Then what would be the situation here? Tell me. What would be the value?
Interchange with kappa becomes kappa.
So it is the same. It is the same situation. I am just considering instead of waveguide 1 here, waveguide 2. This one is the waveguide 1 now. So here will be minus j kappa star by kappa sine kappa jet, and then A20, is not it? And this
Sir,
one will be
kappa is coming, sir, after putting in this equation A1.
where it is?
Kappa is coming, sir, not kappa star. In
This one.
yes, sir. In next case.
In the previous case, it is kappa, right?
Yes, sir.
Kappa star will not be there. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. That is
Yes.
coming, sir.
Yes. Yes, right. Yeah, fine. From those two equations you see, yeah, that's correct. So that star will not be there. I'm wrong. Yeah, that's correct. Okay. So that means kappa k by k mod. That's fine. And this one will be cosine kappa jet A2 0. Is that correct? So two situations are there. So in this case, I have A2 0, and here A2 0 is non-zero. Then two situations is there. Now both A1 0 not equal to 0 and A2 0 also not equal to 0. What would be the solution? Anyone? Okay, let me refresh this one. I have a waveguide, first waveguide. This is a situation 1. This is a second situation. Right? I have here A10 on, that is not equal to 0. I have here A20 also on, not equal to 0. Now what would be the value here?
We have just add those things.
Yes, it is a superposition principle simply, right? It is amplitude. It is the same way how you analyze your normal circuit. Okay, so different sources are there and you calculate superposition principle, right? What is the KCL, KVL, whatever you solve for the networks and electrical circuit. So here also superposition principle. So for here, when A1 was there, this one was not there. So we have the value cosine kappa z A1 0, right? And because of A2 0, what I will be getting? I will be getting this one. So I will be getting minus j kappa by kappa, right? Sine kappa z z A2 0. This is the value, right? And here what I will be getting? I will be getting minus j kappa star by kappa sine kappa z A1 0, and then I should add here cosine plus cosine kappa z and A2 0. Clear? So that is your A1z solution, and this would be your A2z solution, right? Now these two equations if I write in a matrix form, because I want to use this structure, this coupled waveguide structure in a integrated optics circuit, integrated optical circuit. So integrated optical circuit, I want to see it as a black box, input and output. I need to find out some kind of transfer function of this structure. If I have, it's a 2 by 2 structure, 2 input ports, 2 output ports. So if I have some kind of matrix equation, then it will be easier to handle for analyzing circuit level functionalities. Okay, so if I try to represent this equation, this two equation in a matrix form, what I will be writing? I will have A1z and A2z column matrix here, right? And then I need to write this thing, and this will be your A10, A20. Is that correct? So I need to find out the matrix element for this. This is my input and this is my output. So if I know this one, then I can use that as a black box, and input ports, output ports, like this. I can use this two coupled to waveguide. I can use as a black box, and if I know the transfer matrix, then I can say that, well, this is my input field, whatever I am giving, and this is my input field, and I supposed to get this one here. What is the output? So what would be that value? It will be cosine, okay, cosine kappa z, right? Cosine kappa z, and here what I will be writing? Minus j kappa by kappa mod sine kappa z, and minus j kappa star by kappa, right? And sine kappa z and cosine kappa z. Is that clear? Okay. So this is the thing. Traditionally, what we write, this cos kappa z, kappa value I know, and z value length I know. For example, that particular length is there, kappa L. So interacting length is L, for example. The coupled waveguide of length L. Let us consider this value is T. sometimes it is called like a R. So sorry, but I can write R actually. That is better. Let us consider this as a R. Okay. And I can consider K by kappa sine kappa L length. That is actually T. Why I am considering that? It will be clearer here in the previous slide. Previous whatever I am considering. You see, when this one is there, you see whatever you are getting directly, you are getting this value. And this is something transmitting. So this is something, if this is an input, I'm considering something what is going here and something coming here. So that I consider like a R, reflection coefficient, and this I consider like a transmission coefficient. Okay, so that is the reason RT normally, traditionally it is considered. So if R and T, then this matrix can be written something like this. A1, I write L, Z equal to L. A2, L. Column vector, that should be equal to, I'll be writing R, and here I'll be writing minus J T. And here I'll be writing minus J T star. And here, normally it is R, but most of the situation, you will be getting, if it is delta beta not equal to 0 or so, in that case, it is better to write complex conjugate, because solution will be coming like a complex conjugate. Okay. If it is real, it's a complex conjugate, it's make no sense, they are real. Otherwise, most of the time, in general, that other component, if it is something coming like that, additional term will be something JB, and then will be minus JB will be there, if delta beta not equal to 0. So in that case, this one and this one, again complex conjugate. This one complex conjugate, and this one is also complex conjugate. And so we write A1, 0, A2, 0. So any two coupled waveguide or coupling between two modes in co-directional cases, if they are propagating in the same direction, then they exchange power, and in terms of field strength, their transfer matrix can be represented like this. Is that clear? And normally, if you see, this transfer matrix is called unitary matrix. You know what is unitary matrix? Anyone?
A transpose equal to I.
Yes. Normally, physical meaning.
A conjugate equal to I. Okay.
I want the physical interpretation of a unitary matrix.
Time
Physics
reversal
point.
symmetry in.
Yeah, so time reversal symmetry. Before that, normally we consider that unitary matrix is suggesting that it's a kind of lossless situation. Meaning, whatever input energy is going, you're in the output, if it is two input ports are there, whatever energy coming in, and same amount of energy will be coming out. There will be no losses, etc. Energy is, no other form of energy will be created. Okay, and normally to identify that thing, unitary matrix, so determinant should be 1, right? If you just see this determinant here, what you get? R square plus T square, right? R square per T square. Normally, they are unitary matrix if they become 1. It is in fact, when R is the reflection coefficient, R square is equal to how, what? Reflectivity. T is the transmission coefficient, T square equal to transmittivity. So that means total energy conserved, R square plus T square equal to 1. Lossless case. That is how we interpret. So if it is lossless, we will be considering like this. Normally, in practical case, it cannot be lossless. Some insertion loss will be there, but for theoretical analysis purpose, we can always consider this much, and whatever loss we can just add in the final estimation for our evaluation. So, is this clear? And Another one thing you just try to see in this two situation, suppose here whatever the value you are getting, right? Yes, 8, 9. Can you just see what is the value of a1 z square plus a2 z square? Eight and 9, right? You have 8 and 9 situation. If I
One,
try to,
sir.
it will be 1. You know why? Not 1. A1 0 square, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Because
Yes.
sir, energy is distributing.
Energy is
between-
conserved because whatever only because A2 0 was 0. So that means whatever energy is there, amplitude square is the energy intensity, right? That is distributed among two things. So after solving also, even if you see, I have a solution like this. If I just try to solve at any point, if both A10 and A20 are non-zero, then it should be actually this one. Energy will be conserved all the time. Is that clear? Now, I just ask you to solve that. Maybe without solving this thing, can you just solve A1 z square plus A2 z square? Okay. If at any point any two modes are coupled, and at any point z, I am just considering that thing. That should be, if I add them two together, what you supposed to get? Normally in general, that should be constant. Is not it? Energy is conserved. Okay. So this has to be satisfied, right? At
Yes,
any
sir.
point, that has to be satisfied. Very good. Now, without going into the solved equation, use this equation. Even delta beta not equal to 0, you are considering. You can consider. And dA2z by dz equal to minus j kappa star a1z e to the power minus j delta. This is a coupled equation for co-propagating case, right? So delta beta we consider not equal to 0 in general. Something is there. Little bit tends to 0, maybe not equal to 0. Kappa star known. Kappa star known to you. Okay. So you have these two equation, coupled equation. And I know that whatever coupled equation I have derived, this energy conservation should be satisfied. Coupling between two things, right? So can you just prove that using these two equation? Using these two equation, prove that this one without solving. Directly you use these two equations and try to solve. It is possible to solve. I want you to think and solve it. This is your task. Okay. So I think whatever I have discussed today is very, very important. I will be using again and again this particular matrix, because this coupled waveguide is the basic thing for the integrated optics. So this matrix, and maybe wherever necessary, this matrix will be a little bit modified, and I'll be using to understand the circuit performance, integrated optical circuit performance. So this thing you should go through. If some doubts still there, you just clarify yourself, and details of this thing you can find in your more. If you want to learn a little more, also you can just go through that. I think chapter 11 or 12 in Yarif's book, coupled mode theory, you can find. I'm just more or less I'm just following that book. Okay. So I stop here. If you have any questions, you can ask me. Otherwise, I will just in next class I'll be just trying to give some more examples on this coupled waveguide. For example, how this coupled waveguide can be useful for as a directional coupler, power splitter, and some other functions I'll be discussing before I go into the counter directional case. If you have any question, you ask. Otherwise, stop.
Sir,
Yeah.
We have two coupled equation for A1 and A2.
Right.
These two equations where can, instead of taking that is second derivatives in solving two second order differential equation, can you use their matrix method for solving differential equation? That is constructing the matrix and then finding
Yeah, for
eigen.
constructing the matrix, you need this one. You need
No,
to know
I'm not.
this.
No, no,
Otherwise,
no.
directly that those differential equation you want to solve, right?
Yes, sir.
You can use your MATLAB program. You can solve. That's true. Possible. Just a finite difference method you can do, and coupled finite difference method for the coupled equations.
No,
But
no, no,
here,
no, no.
so
Sir,
what?
I'm not telling about numerical method, sir. We have two coupled equation in there that we can write some vector. These two one. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
What is left hand side we can write is a vector, and right hand side we also write like a matrix and a vector. These matrix finding eigenvalues of this matrix and these direct towards a
Because this two, it's a basically, I don't know, maybe possible, but I don't know, because it is a coupled A1 A2 simultaneously there in the same equation. I don't know how you can write in a matrix form for this too. I don't have any idea.
Okay, sir. I will.
You think if you have
Yeah.
some idea, you can discuss maybe.
Okay. Sir.
I don't know. I have not thought like that. Okay. Any other question? Partha, you want to ask? Partha is not clear. Your voice is not clear.
No, no, sir. I
Oh,
think
fine. Fine.
I understood.
Sure.